Earlier we said we want floor plan, structural plan, make and model of the HRV, and where the HRV is going to go in a build. The reason is we give you this back. This is what the contractor will get, or the wholesaler to give to the contractor. There's the QR code that we can actually scan in the field that will bring us to this document. So the biggest question we get asked in the field is, what happens, especially wood frame builds, is if I take and I have my helix termination over here, but because it was framed and I've got to move it here, rule of thumb is if it moves plus or minus 10% of the overall original vent length, we have to recalculate and recheck to make sure our restrictor rings are right. That process before was picking up the phone, phoning everybody, and getting back to our office and asking somebody internally to rerun the calculations. It worked. Sometimes it took a little bit longer than guys were happy for. We've now incorporated a QR code that they can actually scan, go into this document, and say, okay, that master bedroom went from 20 feet originally to 28. So that missed our threshold of plus or minus 10%. Now they can go in here and say it's 28 feet, hit enter, and what it'll do is it'll update the entire document for all the restrictor rings for all the different rooms to make sure they're all correct, okay? And then you obviously get in here, you're getting the room name, where it's located, the CFM, and everything else in the report. Then you get the full bill of materials with a list price cost, like we discussed. And then last but not least, you're going to get your takeoff. So the takeoff is red is for extract and green is for supply. So the contractor gets this. So when they get this, they now know, did we configure this as a wall termination or a ceiling termination or a floor termination? It'll tell them where it's located in the build. So what the first thing they do when they get this is they're going to walk through the build. And what I normally do is everything on the plan is numbered. So starting with 1 to how many supply vents we have. If we've got 5, we'll have 5, and same with the extract. What I do with them is this. I take this, it's very similar to when they're running tin. We walk through the build and we go to room number 1. So if room number 1 is the master suite on the 2nd floor or wherever that master suite is, we walk in. Then I look to say, are we running 2 ducts or 1? And what it'll tell you on the report here, it'll say 1 by 34 or 2 by 34. 34 is our pipe. 1 by 34 means 1 pipe going to the vent, the termination. 2 means 2 ties. So now I'm going to look at that and I'm going to say, okay, I'm in the master bedroom and I've got 1 pipe going in to terminate. What I will normally do if it's in the wall, I will, on the wall that it is, so if it's in this wall here, what I'll do is on the subfloor, on a marker, I'll go number 1 for room by 1 by W. So it means room number 1, 1 duct, and it's in the wall above us, okay? We go through the whole house that way, room by room. So the next room is, I'll pick it, the family room. On this one here, it's in the ceiling and it's room number 3. So on the floor, I would go number 3 by 2 by C, meaning it's on the ceiling. So we go through all the rooms, both the supply and extract side. Once we've accomplished that, then what we do is we start to take and draw pilot holes with the installer bit, probably a 1/4 inch is what most guys use. And especially if we're in a 2nd story house and even if in a bungalow and we're going down to the basement. So what they're going to do, if we come this way, you'll see on this one here, we've written on the base plate that was a 1 by 2 by C. So what that's telling me is that should have been a number 1 by 2 by C, means room 1, 2 pipes in the ceiling. Now in our display here, we're unable to put it in the ceiling, but so there's your 2 pipes that are coming into the back. If we're going to be coming in from down below, because this is a 2-story, we're going to drop a 1/4 inch bit through the base plate. And what they want to do is have it come out the floor below, because they want to make sure that we're not impeding on top of another wall. We want to make sure we have a clear shot. So once we go through there, then we're looking at that run, and we know it's number one. Once we get in, are we going to be going across our floor joists, or are we going with the floor joists? And then we're going to look for the next spot to go down to the basement. If it's in a basement, the mechanical room. And again, we drill a pilot hole in that base plate looking for the path to the mechanical room. So that's the first thing. So once all that is done, and I always joke about, you always know who the least tenured guy on the crew is, because they get to do the dirty work. So no different than tin, you're going to do the HVAC guy still has to do the same thing when he's doing tin. He's pathing out his path down to the equipment, okay? So once that is done, person comes through and has to do the hole saws. Now, there's a couple things that keep in mind when you're talking to a distributor or a contractor. This morning we were talking about the web joists. Remember we talked about the joist that looks like this with a series of X's, okay? So there's predominant areas that you see it, and then there's some areas you don't see it at all. But either it's going to be a web joist for floor joists, or it's an I-joist, generally speaking. So it's an I-beam, so it's a laminated piece of wood between. When you're doing that, the contractor has to make sure that if he's drilling an I-joist especially, when you get closer to the outside wall, they have to read the instructions, because you can only go so close to the outside wall for integrity, okay? So if they ask if there's any restrictions on how close they can go to the outside wall, you tell them to refer back to the manufacturer of the I-joist, and it'll tell them for spacing and everything else, okay? If it's the web joist, it's great. If this was upstairs and I'm coming in the basement now and I've got those type of web joists here, I'm coming through this and I'm just pulling it right through the basement. And I can wander that through like a piece of wet spaghetti through the house, okay? That's the big plus. Now, when we get into the actual install in the mechanical room, there's a couple things to keep in mind. So we talked this morning about the extract box and a supply box. So if you look here, what we normally do is I tell them is we know which is the exhaust and we know which one is the supply side for the house. We'll tell them that we want them, I tell them put an E for exhaust, S for supply, so we can distinguish between the two types of D boxes we have. Now, sometimes they already have the equipment already set up and we know where to put our D box, and sometimes they don't, okay? When they don't, you definitely want to make sure, and in these ones here, you'll see I've numbered the box here on the extract side, or supply side. Inside the tube, I've put a number 1 or a number 2. So if they're not ready to get the equipment, they don't know where everything's going to go, that's fine. You can bring everything to the mechanical room or where the termination is going to go, and you can leave it undone because you'll know what number room it is. So when you go back to your plan, you're going to say, okay, that's number 1, it's going to plug in here, and then we talk about the retaining rings that are in here, and then we'll know what to cut them out. So, and then you have your intake and your exhaust that goes to the outside of the building. So we can do that in foam. We can also do this in tin. We do not want to do the connection between the D box and the equipment with flex, because if we do it, and if you ever go on a job site, you'll look at the flex, they all get distorted and twisted like a piece of spaghetti. It ruins all the pressure, and then it ruins the whole system. So we found that out the hard way. So we want to make sure we're going with foam from us or tin, okay? As Mike said this morning, if we're using tin and we have to have that D box a ways away from the equipment, tin is better because we get less resistance. This will actually, this will actually increase the resistance of the air going from the appliance to the D box. So it adds friction. So we want it, if we have a longer span, we want to continue with tin. So we can go outside. The nice thing about this product here too is when we connect this two pieces of foam together, this is a connector that basically you put the two pieces together in the flange, you pull it together, pinch it, and that's it. And it actually has a bracket on the back that you can actually screw to the wall if you're following a wall to a termination point outside, okay? The D boxes, when you're looking inside here, so now what we're going to do is we're going to run, when we get into the D boxes now and we're running everything, we bring everything back and we're going to connect up. I'm going to pull this off. So these, you can actually zip tie them together. And as you can see, this one's kind of got mangled since we did this, but this is perfect. When you put these together to keep the air tightness, all you're doing is pushing them together like so, lining it up and pinching it. and that's how you put the pieces together. In here, so one of the last things we're going to do when we're coming in and we connect, we're going to connect and we come back to the D box. Number 2, in that report that we saw, it'll tell us where we want this cut out. This goes back into the D box and it's simply snapped in. And that's it. You'll hear it click in. That's done. This is one of the last stages you want to do. So once you've run your pipe and you've connected everything, you're going to then take a look at your report and say, room number 1, how many rings to cut out, and you actually insert your rings into your D box. Once that's done, you can take and close this up. It's friction fit. And then we can actually get into here, and we're going to connect that to that. And now we've got our connection into here. We talked this morning about couplers. When we get to an end of a roll and we may have 6 feet left or 8 feet left, we can take and do that by simply putting this coupler right here. So it's the same premise as everything else. It's a quick connect. It has the gasket, and then it has the actual mechanical connection. You punch it together and you can continuation, and we have no air loss here whatsoever as well. There's a new one out. Unfortunately, we don't have any here today to show you, but the new quick and seal ring is going to be actually inserted into your D box and into your adapter before you run your pipe. So that when you actually come in to do this, it's going to be like shark bite. You're going to take that pipe and stick it into here, and it will lock into place and it will give you your airtight connection. Then the last piece, if they so choose, they want to use our Contego. So we saw we go to the outside of the building, and I guess this is a great way to finish, is this is how we finish on the outside of a building. This is brand new for us. This is called the Contego. There's one for the supply and there's one for the exhaust. And it's a simple thing as basically drilling your I think it's a 5-inch hole. Your foam sits on the one side and there's a sleeve that goes right through into the foam. There's a set screw in here that there's a bracket. You put the faceplate on, you put this on top, and then you put the set screw, and guess what? Nice and solid, stays in place. And that is basically how any contractor would actually systematically go through and install. And if you guys got questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
So do you have a outflow and an inflow in every room?
No. No. So you're thinking traditional furnace, you're right,
Yes.
where we had the return air and the hot air and the return?
Yes.
No. All they're looking for is the envelope exchange. So it's a good question. So you don't have to have them in every room. So what you're going to have is you're going to have the extracts in what we call wet areas. So a wet area would be a laundry room, any bathroom, a powder room, a shower room. Some people will put them in a mud room, but anywhere where you're going to have moisture. Now, someone is going to ask you, do I want to put this in the kitchen? Yes, because you got boiling water and you got condensation in the kitchen. So you want to draw that moist air out on your air exchanges. Well, then does it have a grease trap? No, it doesn't. It's only there for the air exchange of the house. The actual capture of grease still has to be in the, is done by the range hood above it. So you're going to have it for both. Okay? And it goes, and then your supplies would go to bedrooms, living rooms, dens, places where you live.
There's one case where I put one of each in the same room, a gym. And they got to be 10 feet apart. So in like a gym area, one corner area, I'll do extract, the other I'll do supply. As long as they're 10 feet apart, it's okay.
And you know what? Thank you for reminding me, because we did discuss that when we were over in Europe. And there's some bathrooms in some of the homes that are big enough, like you said, 10 feet apart. They'll have the extract close to where the shower is, and they'll have a supply somewhere else in the room, so they do actually get the cross ventilation.
So then this would replace your traditional bathroom fan?
It wouldn't, you don't need to have the both to replace the traditional fans.
Yeah.
Traditional fan is all the extract. So anytime you can put an extract in, you get rid of a bathroom fan.
Yeah.
Now you have builders that will do both.
Some do both, yeah.
Some will do both. It's an overkill. But if they do it properly, they don't need to have that bathroom fan. So in Ontario, that's what Air Solutions has been doing and preaching, because they're using a semi-dedicated system. So they're using the supply air back into the return air, and they want to take and bring all the exhaust back to the HRV. So that's where we come into play, and they've been doing that. It's a slow migration to get them to a fully dedicated. So we got asked the question about the lining of the pipe. So if you look at the outside of the pipe here and I'm pushing air across this, there's too much friction here. We wouldn't be able to move air 10 feet. So what we've designed is a liner, because it's a two-stage process. You make the outer pipe, you make the inner pipe. The inner pipe also has two functions. One is to smooth off the inside of the pipe so that I have less friction loss and I can move air for greater lengths at a time. The second one is it has an antimicrobial agent built in that kills the food source for dust mites. If you have no food, you have no dust mites. There we have no dust, and we have a no anti-static line. So technically speaking, I come out of the HRV, the appliance, I come through the D box, and I come into here. Once I hit here, there should be no dust from here to the end spot. So what I always say to people is it's really important then to keep your maintenance on your HRV, because that's where you're going to have your dust and build up. And I'm not the HRV guy, but I've been told that if that gets all plugged up, then you lose all kinds of efficiencies and it doesn't work properly. Okay? So that's.
Theoretically, you wouldn't have to dust your house anymore.
You would have far less dust, yeah. Yeah, Russell, you probably would. Yep. Because think about it, all your air exchanges are now coming through this. Yeah, especially if you had a wet floor, like hydronic floor heat or electric heat, and all your air exchanges were coming through here, the only way you'd get dust is if you had your windows open and
Get rid of the dogs.
yeah, and get rid of the dogs, yeah.
I had a customer a while ago say that they were trying to tie it in with their heat pump. Have you heard of that?
Okay, so heat pump is the piece of equipment that sits on the balcony, okay, that goes through to, and either air or water fed, and that goes into an air handler. And then the air handler has a coil, so it heats or cools it. We can't do that. We can't use it with a heat pump because the heat pump's tied to an air handler.
Right.
And the air handler is doing hot and cold. And we're not approved to do hot and cold. So this is strictly for ventilation right now. And that's under the Section 9 and Section 3, like we talked this morning. So long as the HRV stays within the dwelling, so single family, easy peasy. Row houses, so long as we have a fire-bearing wall that's in between them, and you generally do, cinder brick from top to bottom, you stay within the dwelling, and then apartments within a multifamily, you have to stay within the apartment itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.